Hello and welcome to Beit El. Behind me is the Jewish settlement of Beit El, and where I am here is believed to be the ancient site where Yaakov stopped and had his famous dream with angels going up and down. This little structure here was used by Christians and Muslims. They also preserve the tradition of this being a sacred site. Over there are remains of the temple built by Jeroboam, King Jeroboam of Israel, where he built the golden calf. That was also here in Beit El. And this interesting tree over here is an oak tree. Oak tree in Hebrew is called an alon. And that also ties to Yaakov, because Yaakov came back to Beit El after many years in Aram. He came back with his whole family. And it says that here he stopped again to build a mizbeach. And also he buried a woman named Deborah, Meneket Rivka, and he buried her under an oak tree. So this oak tree is not as old as that, but perhaps it's a descendant of that original oak tree. So in this special place of Beit El, I want to share with you a riddle. And the riddle goes like this. There's a story in Tanakh, and this story applies to two people, or two pairs of people, I should say. You have two men, one hairy and the other smooth, hairless. The hairy one is the older, and he is known as more of a violent kind of character, more confrontational, whereas the smooth, hairless, younger guy is less confrontational. But the smooth, hairless one, he goes out on a journey which takes him outside the land of Israel, across the Jordan River, and on the way out to the journey, he stops here in Beit El, and on the way back from the journey, he again stops in Beit El. And on the way back from the journey, there's a very violent and bloody incident that happens surrounding the less violent confrontational guy, and from that he builds a reputation and becomes feared and respected by surrounding people. So of course the first pair that this story matches is Yaakov and Esav. Esav is the hairy, Yaakov describes himself as being smooth, and he stops here at Beit El, has a dream. He comes back after many years in Aram, after building a family and building wealth. And he comes back to Beit El again to build the mizbeach and the tree that we mentioned. But on the way back, the violent story is what happens in Shechem. After the rape of Dinah, the brothers Shimon and Levi massacre the entire city of Shechem. And while Yaakov did not tell them to do it, and he later chastises them for it, as a side effect, all the people in the surrounding area, they fear Yaakov and his family. Even though perhaps before that, we would have thought of him as the less violent guy compared to his brother Esav. He was supposed to be the timid one, but now they learned to fear him. But the other pair of people that matches this story is Eliyahu and Elisha, the two prophets. One, the older, the teacher, Eliyahu, he was described as being hairy, and he had a reputation for being very vigilant for the cause of God, of course, but he killed the prophets of Baal. In another episode, he had fire rain down from the heavens and kill the messengers of the king of Israel as a form of punishment. Whereas Elisha, who was chosen to be his successor, was more of a timid guy, and also he was bald. So the story goes that at the end of Eliyahu's career, he was taken up in a chariot to the heavens, and Eliyahu and Elisha went on this journey together. They stopped here at Beit El first, and there, all the people told Elisha, your teacher is going to be taken from you. This is the end. And he said, I know. Then they went down to Yericho in the east. They crossed the Jordan River after making it split. And there on the other side, as they're walking and talking, Eliyahu is taken up into the heavens, and Elisha now becomes the new prophetic leader. He picks up the mantle of prophecy, and he comes back, and naturally it's hard for him to prove himself. People have doubts. They don't respect him the way they did Eliyahu, and this comes to a head when he comes back to this place, to Beit El. And what happens? So this is a very interesting and difficult story, but it says that the young kids of the place, they came out and they said, Ale kireach, get out of here, you bald guy. And some of the commentators say, they were comparing him to Eliyahu, who was hairy, and saying, you don't have the qualities that he had. you can't be who he was. You can't fill his shoes. You'll never be as vigilant and as fierce as him. And in response, he turns around, he looks at them, he curses them with the name of God, and then all of a sudden, 2 bears come out of the forest and rip apart 42 of these young kids. As I mentioned, it's a very difficult story, and our rabbis in Masechet Sotah discussed it and tried to figure out, how was this the right thing? Was it the right thing? What did these kids do? Perhaps Elisha saw that nothing good would ever come of them and they were fitting to die, but nonetheless, they say that he was eventually punished for this action. But what I want to learn from this story is really from a different perspective. You know, Elisha, they doubted him, they didn't respect him, but they learned a very valuable lesson. And I would say that everyone from that moment on came to respect and fear him, as is fitting for a man of his stature. And that is, even though they thought he was a pushover, you never know what people are capable of. And the same thing happened with Yaakov. His sons, they proved themselves, they established a name, and people feared the family of Yaakov. So the lesson that we can take is likewise, never underestimate people. You don't know what they're capable of, and it's something to take with you for life. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.